This is the story of probably one of my most important paintings I've ever done. And if it isn't, it's at least one of my favorites. And it all started out with this free journal I was gifted by a company called Etcher Labs. They sent me this beautiful cold press watercolor paper filled sketchbook, and in my haste to try it out, I started just painting people with really long hair. And this was back when I was on TikTok and I was going live pretty much every morning, and I would paint these live. They took about 90 minutes each. And that's the great thing about doing stuff live, is it's interactive and you can talk to people from all over the world while you're doing these paintings. And that interaction with people of all colors and religions and identities and histories changed the course of this sketchbook, and to a greater degree, me and my art. First time I painted someone with vitiligo, and a drag queen, and a Muslim in a hijab, and an Aboriginal person. And of course I painted elves and Medusa, which was really fun. But Pride Month came along and I painted lesbians, and gay pride too. And I painted a non-binary person with a handicap. They have a cochlear implant. And I did a bisexual Viking, which we called a biking. And on the last page, there's pansexual, transmasc, albinism, asexual, and pretty much everything else we could come up with. But my favorite page out of all 20 of these paintings in the hair journal was this one. And it really kind of happened by accident. And I thought I would take us back to 2021, where this piece came to life. So first of all, this painting was inspired by an amazing photograph that I found on DeviantArt years ago. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? The artist, the photographer, is named Helga York, and I believe they're from Russia. I fell in love with this, and I got permission from them on Instagram. I reached out to them. And I want to make this clear because a lot of people get confused. You don't need permission from anybody to copy their art at all, ever. You don't. It's just the polite thing to do. It's the nice thing to do. You're allowed to copy anyone's art to learn, even for practice. This is how the masters learned. They would go to the museums and they would copy the masters before them. And that's how artists have learned throughout time, is by copying other artists. So please don't ever not copy a piece of art, a photograph, anything that inspires you. That's how we learn. That's how we practice. That's how we grow. So you'll notice that I've got the essential drawing down from the photo reference. And now I'm adding longer hair than what was in the photo. And I'm doing this because, one, it's my hair journal at this point. This is the whole theme of this, is to make hair that goes across to the other page, which I'm doing. But the other thing is, it's really kind of a part of my style now, which is this more Art Nouveau type of hair. I love the way that Art Nouveau gives hair like life. And this goes back to copying. I spent a good 10 years copying Alphonse Mucha's work. This is his work, and I particularly wanted to learn how he did hair. And my first copies were very, very close to his style, but eventually my work became more of my own. A little bit more of my comic book style entered into my work, and it blended my style with his. It was no longer me copying Alphonse Mucha, but it was now uniquely my own style. And that's how it's supposed to be. So back to page 7 of the hair journal, this is what I'm doing right now, is I'm adding that kind of hair that I learned from Alphonse Mucha in my own style, in my own kind of comic booky style. And I have a whole video on how I draw hair, so if you'd like to learn more about that, there's a whole video about that. But right now, I don't like where this is going, and I feel like it needs to kind of curl back up like this. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm just figuring out the shapes. I'm trying to find the life in that hair. I want to find the flow, like as if it was a wave of water, just how it flows and what's going to make the most beautiful piece. And I have to keep reminding myself that I'm talking while I'm doing this. I'm explaining stuff, I'm answering questions, all while my brain is trying to figure out where this hair is going to go and how this piece is going to look. But I want to get back to the importance of this piece and why it was so life-changing. As I was doing this piece, I was just simply copying a photo that I really liked. That's all I was doing. There was no significance to this piece. There was nothing special about it other than I really liked the photo and I wanted to make art that morning. I was going live every morning. I needed something to paint. But I think what happened in this moment was I had just had a conversation with someone on TikTok, a friend of mine on TikTok who went by Davy Felton, and they were gender fluid, which was something I had never heard of at the time. And for those of you who don't know what gender fluid is, my best recollection is it is someone who from day to day sometimes feels more masculine or more feminine, and they don't want to be bound by one or the other. And between Davy Felton and my other friend V from Under the Desk News, who was non-binary, I learned about using they, them pronouns. And despite the obvious femininity of the photo reference, I was referring to this person as they, them during the live. I don't know why. And that's the power of meeting other people. That's the power of exploring other possibilities and talking to people and learning about their experiences and their lifestyles and being open to other people's lived experiences and identities and religions, meeting and befriending people at the age of 50 that I would have never even knew existed. I didn't know about non-binary or gender fluid, but meeting these people and loving them and sharing my art with them and stories with them, I became a better person. I became a more complete human being. And I wanted to make this video to show you that we can change at any age. We can grow, we can learn, we can become more compassionate, we can become more accepting, more hopeful. We just need to be open to the fact that everybody is worthy of love and respect, and we are all human. Even if our religion or our upbringing tells us that others are evil or sinful or, and I hate to even say this word in this context, but woke. Even when everything we've grown up with tells us that some people are good and some people are bad, we can change. We can do better. So back in 2020, a year before doing this hair journal series, I joined TikTok. It was COVID and my film Animal Crackers had just come out, and I was looking for something to occupy my time while we were in lockdown. What I found, though, was a window to the world. People from all over the globe were making friends, discussing politics and religion and identity, and I'd never seen anything like this. Facebook was a cesspool of politics and memes, and Instagram was nothing more than beautiful people posting beautiful pictures of themselves. This was different. It was an exchange of ideas and art and music and people expressing themselves. And I'll say this again, it changed me. It opened my eyes to new religions and cultures and how people identify and love differently than me. And that brings me back to this piece. It was at this moment that someone in the chat, remember I was painting this live on TikTok, someone asked if I could add the transgender flag to this they, them that I was painting. And something about that just felt right. I tried doing it in an Art Nouveau style. I kept trying to add these nice little swirls to the tattoo, but it just didn't work. I just didn't really like it. So I erased it and just went with a very traditional, just bands of color. And here's the thing, I'm not transgender. Shocking, I know, but for some people, that's a thing that stops them, blocks them from painting something or someone they don't identify with. Some artists can't paint a person of color or a woman or a disabled person or someone of a different religion or a member of the LGBTQ community because they don't identify as such. Their world, the worlds they make with their art, is exactly as their real world is to them. And I think I've noticed that even in the old masters. If you look at Van Gogh's work, he painted what? French people. Why? Because that's all he knew. And those Alphonse Mucha pieces I showed earlier, did you see any people of color there? No. Why? Because that's what he knew. But us, we have access to the world, to people of all nations and religions and colors and identities. We can paint Aboriginal people and Samoan people and Nigerian people and Filipino people and Inuit people. We have every shade and color imaginable in our color choices too. We're not limited by what paints we can make. There's no excuses in this day and age to not paint people we don't personally identify as. This hair journal series taught me that. Each day, I would go live and fill another page, and I would get requests for representation to new groups of people who aren't represented in popular culture. Faces and shapes and identities and religions left behind for modern day standards of beauty that honestly haven't changed in hundreds of years due to colonialism and racism and misogyny. But me just taking the leap of faith to paint more people of color and people who love differently than me, or identify differently than me, or worship differently than me, it made me a better human being. I don't know of any other way to say this, but it did. I learned to see the beauty in others. I learned to see the beauty in people being their authentic selves. And that's why I wanted to make this video. I wanted you to see the moment where I became a better person in hopes that you could too. I hope you can learn to paint people who don't look like you. I hope you can learn to love people who don't love like you. I hope you can learn to understand people who don't worship like you. I hope you can see the beauty of people who don't fit the arbitrary beauty standards set by elites who just want to divide us. I hope that you can learn to see the beauty in every one of us. This painting, Hair Journal page 7, has become one of my favorite pieces I've ever done. Not for its display of my artistic technical abilities, not for its design or color choices, not even for its subject matter, but because it changed me. It reminds me of who I was before I started this journal. I got permission from the photographer Helga York to make posters of this painting, and over the last few years I've seen this painting in dorm rooms and bedrooms and schoolrooms and man caves. I've met so many young trans artists who identify with this piece on such a personal level that I never could, especially in these times where people are being ostracized, abducted, or even killed for who they are, where they were born, or how they worship. We must make art that amplifies the voices of those who need it. We need art that shows the beauty in our individuality and the courage it takes to be our authentic self. And if this isn't the job of an artist, I don't know what it is. This painting wasn't made with a political agenda. It was made out of growth, out of learning, out of wonder and love and the hope to be kinder. Art doesn't have to be political, but art should always be about growing and learning and pushing ourselves and our worldviews beyond what we're told. So this is it. This is Hair Journal page 7, the transgender painting. One of my favorite paintings and a moment I'll always remember of personal growth. I hope you like it, and I hope you can be open to your own growth as an artist and as a human being, because we're all deserving of love, of kindness, of being our truly authentic selves.